One thing I want to talk about, though, is Jacques Nienaber. He's kind of in the news at the moment. He gave an interesting interview to SuperSport, which is the big South African broadcaster. The week Ireland played South Africa, he went out to the team hotel, I think it was the Radisson out in Stillorgan, and sat down with Matthew Pearce, the SuperSport commentator, for like a 25-minute chat about like Leinster, his career. And he was asked about his future, and he gave an answer about, oh, my contract. Well, we'll play it for you in a second, because how this has been construed has become a bit of a story. Jacques Nienaber was doing press yesterday, and he was giving out that he felt that the quotes were maybe taken out of context. He was saying, look, people, my contract is public record, that's well known. So he was kind of like defending what he had said. But I just want to play the clip and we can discuss what he said rather than having a he said, they said kind of thing. This is what he said. This was the question from Matthew Pearce and his answer about his future.
Jacques, I know your immediate future remains with Leinster. Dare we ask, or is it unfair to ask sort of medium and longer term plans? I know you've been incredibly grateful for the journey you've had in rugby so far.
Yeah, Matt. No, I extended with a year with the club, and so my contract's up to the end of the season 2027. The domestic season, so I'll be out of contract, but the start of the international season in the Southern Hemisphere just starts after that. So you never know how things work out, and you know what, Matt, you plan life. When myself and Rassie came over in 2016, our plan was to get passports. And the kids is going to settle here. That was the idea, and then maybe if we're relevant enough or good enough, we will return when we're a little bit older. So we thought maybe for the 2023 or this 2027 World Cup, if we're good enough and relevant enough. So, but then life happens, Anthony Foley passed away, and you realize that, you've got all these plans and all these future plans, but actually all you have is now, the time you have now. So listen, very grateful where I'm. Would I like love? Like I said, I miss the Springboks. I really miss the group, and one never knows, I must make sure that from my side. One is still relevant enough, and you evolve and you are creative as a coach, and you find different ways and better ways of doing things, and then life will take care of itself.
So that's what he said to Matthew Pearce. It's been construed by some people, including myself, as does he say in that clip, I want to go back to South Africa? No. Does he say in that clip, my contract with Leinster ends and the Southern Hemisphere international season starts right then, and you never know what could happen. I miss the Springboks. He does say that.
Yeah, it's funny.
There's nothing wrong with him missing the Springboks. Obviously, he coached there. He's from there. That's fine. But I think, as the current Leinster coach, kind of introducing that apropos of nothing, like he wasn't specifically asked about when does your contract end, Jack? Like he brought that up, and he kind of alluded to a link between the Southern Hemisphere international season in 2027 and the end of his Leinster contract. So that's fair game for people to listen to that and question what his thinking is at the moment, I think.
Yeah, although at the same time he does make reference to him being relevant, at that juncture, and that, to my mind, that, do you know what, the full quote actually puts my mind at ease a little bit more, because when I hear him say, I think he should have been more explicit, but when he says to me, like, I think the way he phrased, Rassie and himself, they wanted to be relevant at that juncture after the Munster kind of thing, or after a long enough period in the Northern Hemisphere where they could maybe go home and maybe do. I assume he was talking about South Africa going back, and you need to have that kind of a bit of success, or you need to be thought of as a kind of an innovator or a good thinker in the game. And I think he does slip that in there where he says, look, if I'm relevant enough, maybe the opportunity will come, and it's okay to say he misses them. They're top of the pops at the moment. It's a happy setup. They're beating the crap out of everyone, and they look like there's no stopping them coming towards kind of World Cup. At this juncture, it's a far away. It's a bit away at this juncture, but they just look, there's so much depth and strength. I think when he says he's relevant, I wish he had said, well, look, I need to be successful here first. I think that's what he means by being relevant. And actually, I'm a little bit more settled after that, because I probably read more of the headlines, and I saw him kind of punch back a little bit. I don't know where he did it. Was it after the game the weekend in a presser, or maybe it was yesterday? It was yesterday. Yeah, it was a presser yesterday. So yeah, I'm actually a bit more at ease now when I've heard the full quote, because I think that's an important part of it, is that he says he wants to be relevant, which to me means he wants to be successful at Leinster. Still, it's a you'd rather feel like all the focus is on, like, this has got to be the be all end all. Like the Leinster coach, it should be the be all end all for you to be successful at Leinster. Now this guy's done it. He's a World Cup winner, so he knows that there's more to this and there's a bigger thing than Leinster. But sometimes I wonder if that's a good thing. Do you want to, like, when you hear that, do you also hear, well, there's something more? And to me, being successful at Leinster, like, winning a European Cup, not many coaches can have won European Cups. And it's bloody hard to do. So I don't know. Yeah,
Jonathan, I don't know what your perspective is on it. Like, for me, there's nothing really what he's in and of what he said that's particularly controversial. Like, as in, he was just outlining kind of when his contract ended. Albeit, I think the allusion to the Southern Hemisphere season does kind of make it sound like he is eyeing up a return to the Springboks. Like, saying he misses them isn't the thing. It's just more like doing a sit-down interview that week of Ireland, South Africa. Ireland and South Africa are such big rivals. And it does sound like, I don't know what you think, I think it does sound like he has one eye on going back. And to Luke's point, he hasn't achieved enough, I don't think, with Leinster to kind of have that luxury of kind of talking like that. I think he would have been better served to be keeping a lower profile, like, considering the team hasn't yet delivered what people would have expected when he was hired. I don't know what your perspective is.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing. So who would benefit from him keeping a lower profile that particular week? And the answer to my mind is his employers. So to that end, who is he serving by giving the interview that particular week of that test match, presumably knowing that he's definitely going to be asked that question, then knowing that that's definitely going to become a story, and knowing that Razzie will then be giving a press conference later and he will be asked about it as well, making it a story essentially to the detriment of his employers the week of their biggest home game of the year. That to me is interesting. I think if you're talking about what he actually said, I agree with you. I don't think there's that much in it other than what we would have assumed anyway, that a South African rugby coach during an era when South Africa are the best team in the world and being talked about as one of the best teams ever, misses working with a group that he won 2 World Cup with. So I don't think that's essentially newsworthy, but the timing of it and his, I suppose, willingness to give an interview at a time when it wouldn't look good for his employers, or potentially wouldn't look good for his employers, is the interesting part.
If I was a Leinster player listening to that, I would be curious.
It's either naive, it's either really naive, or it's either quite sneaky. Like,
he's too smart to be naive.
Yeah,
that's my thing. Well, that's the one thing.
South Africans know the media.
It's in, like, so putting out a bit. Oh well, like, my, the contract ends. I've signed this. It's kind of, this is timed perfectly. Imagine that. So hopefully I've won a few things and I'm still relevant at that juncture. Is it a soft sell, kind of like a little bit of a pitch, letting them know? I mean, everyone knows at this.
Yeah, like Rudd kind of called it a "come and get me" plea to Razzie Erasmus. But like, there is an element of that. Like,
love letter.
Matthew Pearce has asked him,
does he need that though?
I don't think
does he need to pitch it? Does he need to pitch himself to his best friend?
Perhaps he's looking at the success they're having now and feeling, maybe my return won't be as straightforward as I thought. Or you can't put yourself in his head, but like, I find it funny that he introduced this idea in this interview. People have kind of ran with it now, and he's now trying to, like, distance himself from stuff he said. Now, I did listen to the press conference earlier. A journalist asked a question and basically said, I haven't watched the interview, but what did you think of those comments? And, like, rightly, he was like, what are you talking about? Watch the interview. So it kind of, like, undercut the point people were trying to make. But I think I listened to the full 25 minutes, he's not wrong to say it's a wide-ranging chat, but that clip we played there, for me, that is kind of like a strange clip for a guy who's currently working. No, he's not working for the Irish team, so it's not like as if it's a direct, I suppose, competitor necessarily. But if I was a Leinster player, if I was like a Leinster, someone behind the scenes at Leinster, a colleague in the coaching staff or one of his bosses at Leinster, I would be like, that's strange. That's a strange interview to give.
They were.
Okay. Yeah.
But in what,
I don't know what I can't say it now, but they were though. Yeah. So